ring, there just wasn't much of a match. There was no DQ. There was nothing, no DQ about it. And the storytelling was just terrible, and the moves, just see some botches in there. Just, I've seen both guys a lot better matches, honestly. I mean, I know whatever they're trying to do, and I don't know. It just, I was lost, and it was like there was nothing about it. It was a no DQ really, and
I picked that up too. And this is and I think the boring is more reflective on the Miz, because this is during the era where Miz was not very good in the ring. Because it took a few years after this to where he got really good and better to watch. And Kofi, nothing against him, but this was still when he was kind of fresh on the on WWE. He was still a younger guy, and Kofi's always been really, really good. It's just in this era he really depended upon who he was working with, and a Miz that really wasn't that great in the ring was not a good pairing.
No, it just was. I mean, I not. I know Kobe had a hell of a lot better showing. I know Miz was still trying to get the. You see better in the ring from Miz now, and the last couple of years and so forth. But I just was not of any kind of match to really write home about. So I gave Gracious 3.
I gave it a 3 as well.
Okay.
I actually thought you were going to go higher than that, to be honest with you. But
I couldn't. I was trying to say honestly, I was looking at this match like, how can I get this to be a nice number? I was like, I can't go higher than 3. That was gracious enough. Just I could have gone even to 1 or 0.5. Honestly, just I know it sounds bad, but this match just had no appeal.
So what was funny about this match when it came on? I'm like, it's been too harsh on the Miz, and then I was just basically saying, it came down to the fact like I thought I was being harsh on him. I wasn't. He was just terrible. It kind of reconfirmed my original thoughts that he wasn't as great as he wasn't as great as he is now, and he's definitely come a long way and proved himself now.
Yeah, he definitely come a long way, and it's like to where his personality was big.
Yeah,
and that's what's saved. And I understand that it's just, it helps out people. It's like, obviously, Hulk Hogan as well.
The Rock.
But The Rock was better than that, though. He was
right, but his personality is what drove him.
Oh, yeah, I mean, his personality was spoke the loudest. But he had not comparison with what the Miz was going on with, too. But, I mean, it's like I said, it's just what you say. It was bad enough to see it, but it's what it is, and the Miz is still around, which is cool and everything.
Yeah, he's still around, but he's way better than he used to be.
Oh yeah,
because I'm gonna mention this because I watched Raw, and he's with John Morrison now. And do you remember his old pose where it's like he did a shark fin on his head and he rocked back and forth and did the 2 hands up? He does that again now when he's with Morrison. And the whole time I'm like, what the hell are you doing? What kind of gesture is that? That's not entertaining. That is, you're pretending to be a shark? What's up?
Yeah, he I think that even his ring attire, or his his entrance attire was a lot better back then too than it is now. But that's just kind of poking.
Oh, his new one kind of fits this whole "I'm a movie star."
Yeah, he's Miz is more the prima donna out there alongside Morrison. That is the case. Wrestling's still cool, y'all. Here joining with the social media. Y'all obviously can't see me right now, but you'll see this on the social media platforms. But Miz, personality was big, and his in ring got better over the years. And that this year was not 2013 was not his his showcasing year.
Right. Right. It was not. It didn't come until later. So the next match ended up being the Wyatt family. Bray Wyatt, Eric Rowan, Luke Harper against Daniel Bryan. In a 3-on-1 handicap match. So this is the only reason I could think of why CM Punk was so far away from the later part of the card, is to not have 3-on-1 handicap matches against each other. The end result was not the same. Daniel Bryan did not overcome the hounds of the Wyatt family. I am doing that on purpose. But yeah, and the story with this one is if Daniel Bryan lost, he had to join the Wyatt family, his bearded brethren. What did you take on this?
I thought it was interesting showcase for what it was. I mean, it's told a good story by far.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting. They had 2 3-on-1 handicap matches in the same night too. They told good stories, but
I don't know why they did that.
I would say that I was enticed the rating and viewership on there, but I said it's both matches told a story, especially this one here, since obviously if he lost, he would have joined the White family. But I thought it was a good match. I think I gave it 6.
Well, I gave it 6.5. I thought it was a good story, good uphill battle for Daniel Bryan. Even though he didn't overcome it, he definitely tried, and I think the fact that this kind of showed how evil the Wyatt family could be and Bray Wyatt could be, even though it took them several years later with the Fiend to actually buy into the evilness of Bray Wyatt. But it highlighted that, and I wish they would have done more with him early on, let him be this whole evil character. But beggars can't be choosers. They did what they did, and here we are. I forget what pay-per-view ended the whole Bryan and Bray story.
At the top of my head, I cannot remember right now.
It was a cage match. I remember that much.
Yeah, at the top of my head, I can't think of which one it was. I'm trying to think. I just can't think of the top of my head right now.
Which, I'm sorry, this is more fantasy booking and unrelated to this. I really hope before John Cena officially retires from wrestling, that they do a Fiend John Cena storyline, and they bring back they did a little bit with the Firefly Funhouse, but I'd rather them kind of pay homage to I got the whole world in my hands era of their feud. But, fantasy booking, don't see that ever happening since they did the Firefly Funhouse. I just think it would be a good way to kind of pay homage to that and let the Fiend get the win over John Cena in a traditional wrestling match.
That would be good.
So here we go. The last match, the unification, which I don't know why they said this has never happened before. It's almost like they pretended like we don't know what the Undisputed Championship was. But this was in between Randy Orton as a WWE champion against John Cena as a world champion, which is interesting because when they first obtained the belts, the roles were reversed. John Cena had the WWE title and Randy Orton had the world title, and they were synonymous with each of those titles. But this was in a TLC ladder match, or TLC match, with a ladder match to obtain the titles. With it being a TLC match, anything goes. They can use any weapons. At one point, John Cena was handcuffed to the bottom rope and tried to bring the bottom rope with him to climb the ladder. But to no avail, Randy Orton won the titles and became the undisputed champion. Well, they call it Unify, but whatever. Champion of WWE.
What match? I know they had obviously the Jericho match before to say he's undisputed champion. What is there? Was there their match? I'm trying to think of. They had 2 brand champions to unify them. I'm trying to think.
The only one I could think of is the Jericho one, becoming the undisputed champion. They kind of bounce those belts around, but I think this is the second time they pulled it off. I didn't like the fact that they wanted to sell this over the top. It's like, oh, this has never happened before. It happened like 12 years ago.
Well, I think with the Jericho situation, I think they're looking at that as something a little different. That's why I think they marketed it and announced it that way instead of just saying this is never happened before. As with Jericho, is more of a I guess in their view, a little more obviously different. There wasn't like a Raw and SmackDown issue yet. That's the best way to try.
I mean, I guess I could see your point, but it's the same thing. Like, it's still a unification.
Yeah. No, I guess I guess they looked at it as
it's just that once in a lifetime thing that became twice in a lifetime. Once in a lifetime, The Rock versus John Cena. We're gonna do it next year.
Yeah, pretty much.
WWE. I don't know. Which actually, I'm sorry, we didn't talk about this. Josh Matthews was still here during this too.
Yeah, he was still there. Yeah, he was during that time period. He was still there. I thought he did a pretty good job, honestly, back then too.
But what did you think of this whole Randy Orton John Cena Undisputed Championship match? I'm gonna call it that from here on out.
That's fine. Thought I told a good story. I mean, good action. I give it a 7.5. I just thought
higher than I did.
Oh, did I? It's I thought there was no, but honestly, it revolved around two guys that feuded before and have great feuds together. There would have been nobody else at that time that could have done the same match. Not even to tell that kind of story. At least it's two well-stored guys with a rivalry. Two top guys. That's you couldn't get much better than that. That's my opinion. That's just and a lot of people don't think that there's Punk and there's Bryan that were, but their careers were not as advanced to that level. But right. Yeah, for those two guys and the story they told, I thought it was really good. Absolutely. And then I wouldn't mind watching back again.
Yeah. For me, when in 2013 rolled around, I was kind of over Cena and Orton constantly, but I was a Punk guy at this era.
Yeah.
But I actually rated it 7. I did want to be fair to the type of match and what they sold, and the fact that Orton was so venomous and whatnot. But it was just it just didn't really get that high of a rating for me because I guess I wanted more for that kind of match, and I feel like they did try to pull out a lot. But I think with their own limitations and performances in the ring at that time, there really wasn't getting much better than that. And to be honest with you, John Cena, he got the best out of himself when he faced CM Punk. CM Punk and Cena matches were amazing.
They were, absolutely.
They're a different gear with Randy Orton, but if you wanted to see John Cena pull out random things in the match, you were going to see him against CM Punk.
And I think it goes with the performer he's up against, like you're saying. It's just certain performers can pull out different things and pull out what he's done with CM Punk to Orton. In some cases, it wouldn't make quite as much sense. It's just like you get to work with certain people. It's like there's only certain things you would want to do with that certain person, tell a story. I think that's where it kind of comes out as, and Punk, you just can be a little bit different than storytelling, but also storytelling with the maneuvers.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. CM Punk and John Cena they elevate each other. Randy Orton, I kind of see him more get elevated with people that are smaller than him, like a guy that's like the size of like not Randy Orton, but like a Kofi Kingston or an Evan Bourne or a Rey Mysterio or even Dolph Ziggler. Those kind of shaped guys is what Randy Orton does best with. Which ironically, like a Daniel Bryan is what Brock Lesnar does better with. So I mean, it just depends.
Oh, yeah.
The chemistry is a little bit different,
Absolutely.
and I think Randy playing off that devious character with a smaller guy just works better because the guy can bump a little bit more. And Randy, you typically when you see him in a match with smaller guys, that's when he breaks out the drop kicks. So Yeah, it's